Hello, John Miller, founding attorney of Rock Solid Law. Thanks for joining us for our regular Thursday Zoominars. See, I've got a bunch of realtors on the line today, and I'm so glad you've joined because this morning's subject is an important one I think that is too often overlooked in the closing process, and one that can really gum up a closing if it's not addressed properly and timely. So we're going to talk about municipal lien searches. I don't know if anybody's on or will watch the video of this who's outside of the Northeast Florida region, but fortunately for us, we do have a consolidated city government in Jacksonville so that all of Duval County is one city, but we also do have here at the beaches, and I believe Baldwin as well, multiple semi-autonomous municipalities. And of course, in St. Johns County, we have a different governing body. So we have to make sure that we have municipal lien searches from all of those entities. Why is this important? So a little background on the title side of the closing that we hope all goes down easily and in the background, and that our realtor friends really don't have to worry about too much. And that is that as soon as a title order is placed or a new contract comes in, referred into the firm, we're going to order a title commitment. That title commitment causes a search to be done, a title search, which will go through the public records of the relevant county and with respect to the relevant parties, and give us a whole slew of background information on what needs to be done to get fee simple title transferable to the new purchaser. Same is true with a refi as well, which concerns you guys less. So, for example, if there is a mortgage on the property, that mortgage lien always shows up, and we know we've got to clear a mortgage lien. That's going to be paid out of the proceeds of closing, right? But often other things show up on there that we've got to resolve as well. Sometimes judgments. For instance, my name is John Miller, right? So there's a bunch of John Millers out there, and those folks regularly show up on a title search if you run one on me, and I have to do an affidavit that I'm not the one against whom all those judgments have been entered, and therefore wouldn't be a lien against my property if I were trying to, say, if we were trying to sell our home. Now, the title commitment is irreplaceable in getting fee simple title transferred, but the title commitment doesn't cover everything. You see, a big one is liens from a municipality. Those are not required to be recorded in the public records in order to become a lien against the property. Okay, not in the public records in order to become a lien against the property. How do you find out what's out there? You have to do a municipal lien search. So a municipal lien search takes 2 or 3 weeks typically to come back. We are sometimes able to get a rush order through, but as all of you in the industry know, this is a particularly busy time. And just like lenders, they don't have a lot of sympathy for those of us that don't get an order in on time. So it's really important to get that order in early. So what's going to come back? I'm going to go through it. And they're going to be things like code violations, right? Let's say somebody didn't take care of their property and the city had to come in and cut down the weeds, mow the grass, that sort of thing. Those sorts of matters can accrue a large amount of money over time, especially if fines have been levied. And I'll give you an example of that before we sign off at the end. The other one that we don't see are open permits. People often do work on their house for which they are required to obtain a permit. The work's finished. They pay the guy goes away. Well, not every contractor is responsible enough to say, hey, I need to give you this contractor's affidavit so we can clear the cloud that we just placed on your title when we did that renovation, when we repaired that roof, when we did any number of other pieces of work that might be done, added something like a pool or a bonus room, right? Those don't necessarily, those will not show up on a title commitment and only show up on a municipal lien search. So there are a couple of ways to get a municipal lien search. One of them is to go to the respective municipality, whether that's Atlantic Beach, Neptune Beach, Jacksonville Beach, St. Johns County, Jacksonville, and order one lien search directly from them. Or, thankfully, in our industry, there have become companies who will accept, for a fee, of course, a lien search that they search all relevant municipalities, names, facts. So obviously the better way to go, sort of one order gets that done. So a couple of points here. The seller should pay for a municipal lien search, and we most appreciate it when you guys get that into the contract itself so that we know that that's going to be charged to the seller at closing. If it's not in the contract, we need to gain the approval of the seller to pay for it. So basically, I'm going to go through one rapidly with you. There's no reason to belabor the point this morning, but there's a little application like this that we'll fill in regarding the address of the property, the type of search we're ordering, the names of the owner and the buyer. If we have our real estate number, we'll include that. And that's basically it. They take it from there. And they give us back a really sweet report, some of which is, by the way, also included in the title commitment. Like they'll give us the real estate tax information. Well, we're going to have that otherwise. They're also going to tell us whether it's a municipality that will lien for sewer and water services and whether there are any outstanding ones that are due. Obviously, they're going to tell us if there are any outstanding taxes. There are also city user fees for certain, it could be certain municipalities charge it through their utilities. Others will charge a separate fee for water, for sewer, for garbage pickup, all those services that a city typically provides. So they're going to tell us whether there's any fee outstanding there. Here's one where we found what the assessment is for stormwater and what the assessment is for solid waste, etc., and that those were at the time of this report outstanding. So we're going to make sure that we don't leave those there so that the buyer has to pay them later. That's how we have an unhappy customer in the future. There is also what is called a foreclosure registry. You know, we went through that huge foreclosure crisis post-bubble where there were an awful lot of foreclosed properties. There is a registry that tells what properties are in foreclosure. Of course, the title search is going to show if there's an active foreclosure. But a lot of people are concerned with the current recession that we may see foreclosures happening again. And the foreclosure registry, not happening, but increasing again. The foreclosure registry is important to know whether there had been a foreclosure on this property and the title passed properly out of it. There's the big one I talked about before, no open permits or permitting issues. So sometimes, many of you know that I am a special magistrate for code enforcement. And as recently as yesterday, we have been in hearing where I was hearing violations of building codes. If those are out there, the magistrate or other authorized body can levy a fine, and that fine will attach to the property. A lot of times people will do construction without getting a proper permit, just thinking they're going to get by with it. Maybe a lot of people think they don't need a permit. I understand from my friends in zoning and permitting that there are an awful lot of builders and contractors that don't really understand when a contract is, when a permit, let me start that one over. There are a lot of builders and contractors out there that do not thoroughly and properly understand when a permit is required. If they start doing work on a house that you're trying to sell, there may be a violation there. And if that violation comes to light, there's going to be a problem. So we want to know everything about any construction that occurred prior to the event, and especially whether there is an open permit, which means the work hasn't been concluded and inspected and closed, with a contractor's affidavit that they've been paid, because there could be a lien, right? Our homestead law in Florida requires that no creditor can come after our home unless they're a mortgage or unless you've given them a lien. Well, there's a statutory lien for anybody who does work on your home, and if they follow the proper statute, they can get a lien if you don't pay them. We've got to make sure that those are paid prior to closing. So we're going to find out whether there are any permitting issues or open permits on the property, anything regarded to do with whichever utilities are in place for that particular property. I alluded earlier to code enforcement, whether it be through a magistrate or otherwise, whether there has been a code enforcement action taken against a property. In some municipalities, the code enforcement officer can levy without even it having to go to a magistrate. And if those are outstanding, you definitely want the current owner, the one who's responsible for them, paying them before you transfer property to a new owner. You can see from what's in my hand, it's a thorough report. It gets us all the information that we need in order to properly close. So just as a cautionary tale, I was involved with representing a client on a project. They were trying to purchase a home that had been bank owned for a long time following the foreclosure boom from about 10 years ago. This story goes back 3 or 4 years, and they went to buy this property from the bank who had foreclosed on it, was holding it, and was doing absolutely nothing with it. It was an eyesore, and the city had noticed that it was an eyesore, and the city had gone in and had to clean up, the lawn. It was just a mess. They cleaned it up, and they levied a fine, and that fine accrued every single day. And by the time my client wanted to buy that property, which let's say was worth $250,000, the fines that had been levied were also $200,000. You heard that right. They were also $200,000. Now, a municipality would much rather have a property on their tax rolls than sitting with a foreclosure lender and with nothing being done to it. So that client was able to go and petition to have a severe reduction of those fines, and contingent upon his completing the purchase, that city was willing to waive a significant portion of those fines. But that closing took a long, long time because of the process required. So you want to know as early in the process as possible that that there are issues with regard to that a municipal lien search could find, right? So this is nothing more than you guys need to be aware of it. But I am going to say the very best practice that I would like to encourage for all of you, when you take a listing, the very first thing I would like for you to do is order the municipal lien search. Tell that seller, we need to order that to make sure there's nothing out there that you're not aware of. It's usually they're not lying to you. They just don't know how the system works, right? And so it's a complete surprise to them. It's like, oh yeah, we did do that work, or something like that. But if you don't find that out until late in the game, it can throw your closing off. So what I would most prefer is that you guys get them to order one right from the start. If you're somebody that works with us regularly, we would be glad to assist in that process, of course, to get the lien search ordered. And we'll just go ahead and open a file and hold the lien search in there until they get the home under contract. Hey guys, in this market, homes are going under contract pretty darn quickly, right? So we're not going to be out the money very long. And we'll know what's out there, and we can get to work on that even in advance of our getting the title commitment in. Okay, so this isn't a really complex system. I've been closing since 1991. We really didn't bother so much with these until more recent years. We focused on them more. My title underwriter is now saying they would prefer that we get one ordered with you guys really literally as soon as you get the listing agreement, so that we can find that contractor, You guys know what it's like to run down a roofer sometimes, right? The ones that have been around less long sometimes are a little hard to find. And I see Rebecca, who's been with us before, knows where the question button is. It's somewhere about right down there, and has asked a question. How much is a municipal lien search? They vary, but they're all under $100. So we're looking at like probably $75 to have a really thorough one done. Um, we do business with one particular vendor primarily, and so we get pretty good service and get them back quickly. We try not to cry wolf. We don't ask for expedited when we don't need expedited. And then when we do, they can usually turn it around. Obviously, we don't like all of our eggs in other baskets. So we have a couple of other vendors that we keep around in case our one can't get something turned around quick enough. We could go with a different one and get in a hurry. So Rebecca, we're talking about probably about $75. It's not a big expense, but man, it can avoid a big problem. Anybody else have a question you'd like to ask me? I think Rebecca put hers in the chat bar, which is awesome. There's also a question and answer bar, but let's stay in the chat bar since we're already there. If anybody else has a question on that. So overall, overview again, it's an easy, simple thing to do. It takes a couple of 3 weeks in its normal course to make sure that we know that there's nothing that is not recorded in the public records which could cause a problem in transferring clear title, right? The reason the municipal lien search is needed is to find things that are not required to be recorded in the public records. So, you're so welcome. Thank you. Thanks for playing this morning. I don't want to belabor this. There's not a lot of depth to this subject. There are just a whole host of problems that can be avoided. I've got another question. Thank you, Kaylee. This one's a little longer, so let me take a second to read it. He said, reaching for his glasses. So that's excellent. So I'm going to read Kaylee's question. Kaylee, hope you don't mind I use your name because it's a great one about expired permits. Prior to 1998, she's been told that the city of Jacksonville didn't have a system for closing out permits, true, after the final inspection was performed. Rather, they'd simply allow the permits to expire. So they show up on municipal searches. Is this accurate? Yes, they do. And we need to analyze each one to see if it is still an issue with respect to the property. So there can be some comfort that a year later they may expire and not result in an impingement against the fee simple title. But we want to look at them and make sure that we agree. I'm going to be with you that something as far back as 1998 should be closed out by this point in time and is not going to be a problem. But we would rather have the opportunity to look at the specifics of the situation and make sure that it's not an issue on title. You know, there's no worse surprise than a buyer finding out after they get their new dream home that they've got an extra unfair obligation that they didn't bargain for, and that a few sellers will do the right thing. I've done this for a long time. I guess we're closing on 30 years. I've had sellers do that. Hey, this was out there. Okay, I'll pay it. But there are an awful lot of people that just don't return the phone call. Excellent question. Wow. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Not so much of an issue now because it's been so much time since Jacksonville started to have their system in place after 1998. Hey, Rebecca, she said it was 1998. Yes, I'm squinting to make sure that that's not 1998. So we ought to be in the clear on most of those issues. But yeah, you're exactly right. They do show up and we look at them and we say, okay, no problem. There are a lot of things that show up on the title commitment that once we read them, we realize that they can be eliminated quite simply, but we have to perhaps get a death certificate or get an affidavit from the parties. Awesome, y'all. Any other questions? This is John Miller, founding attorney at Rock Solid Law. Since I do have a bunch of realtors on, I want to let you know that we're going to do a live portability event at Casa Marina next month. We'll get the details out to you. If you are able to attend, we do a co-branded piece about portability that you can give to your sellers, which is something they all seem to really, really like. I will also let you know that we now have a portability calculator live on our website. It just went up last week. We're very excited about that. And sometime in the not too distant future, I'll be doing one of these Thursday Zoominars to go through how it works. It's easy. It's only in the downsizing model that you really have to do that calculation. And this is going to make that calculation really, really easy. I'm double checking. Let's see. AJ. Yes, sir. Business, personal property, i.e. unpaid taxes, etc. Yes. If you mean, will unpaid taxes show up on the municipal lien search? Yes, they will. An environmental issue, exactly. That's probably going to come up in the commitment as well, but it's a belt and suspenders that we would also want to see that through the lien search. I do believe that business personal property will show up on the municipal lien search. I have not had that, but I would say that any taxes that are outstanding, particularly which might adhere to the property, will come up in the lien search. Thank you, sir. Great question. Anybody else? I'll hang around a minute while you think and let you listen to Zoom. Again, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Any feedback or comments are always welcome, particularly if there are subjects having to do with a title, closing, escrow, real property issues. Most people don't really love to talk about real property law, but maybe you guys would have a question or two that I could address one Thursday morning. Also, many of these we do estate planning. Of course, the estate planning and probate process intertwines inextricably often with real estate, and we practice in both those areas, as well as business representation, small business owner representation, which I think that is what John AJ was alluding to, and that is taxes that are assessed through the business as AJ, I'm brain freezing on the term for those taxes right now. They're the not the real property taxes. I'm not going to come up with it right now. I'll have to get back to you on that. But the taxes that are assessed on the value of the property you own. Yeah, personal property taxes. All right, guys. That's it. Intangible. Millie, you're my hero. Woo! Tell you guys, some mornings. So the intangible taxes on personal property is the subject we were discussing. Thank you, Millie, for that information. You have a great day, too. Everybody, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I've answered all the questions that were posed, and I really appreciate you guys joining me this morning. This is John Miller, Rock Solid Law.